Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to my second video on putting a Toyota 2GR V6 into an SW20 chassis. Today's video we're going to cover parts that you're going to need to make this nearly a plug-and-play swap. There may be a few minor modifications that you will have to make, but if you use the majority of these parts, it should be fairly plug-and-play for you. I want to give a shout out to three main manufacturers or community members that have supplied the majority of these parts to make this pretty plug and play. The first one is going to be Frankenstein Motor Works. I'm going to go ahead and cover some of their parts here in just a minute. The next one is going to be Wilhelm at Wilhelm Race Works. He's got some parts that we're going to cover. And then lastly, Paul Woods at Woodsport. Those are the only parts that I'm not going to have. What that is, what Paul does, is provides the wiring service to turn your 2GR wiring harness that you receive from your vehicle with the engine into a plug-and-play wiring harness into the MR2. He is over in the United Kingdom, so the shipping is a little bit more expensive, but from the research and talking with people in this 2GR community, he is the gentleman to send the harness to have it done properly. He provides some amazing customer service. I've chatted with him quite a bit, as well as Mark and Alex. All three of them have been fantastic. I'll cover a little bit more information on the wiring harness conversion from Paul here towards the end of the video. But let's go ahead and get started on some of these parts. What I have in front of me here on the table is going to be all of the parts that I have ordered from Frankenstein Motor Works. His website is simply frankensteinmotorworks.com. He is one of the pioneers of the 2GR swap into the SW20 chassis. He provides a couple different things here that are a necessity for putting that motor into the SW20 chassis. The first thing that he provides is these absolutely gorgeous headers. Since the factory headers that come with the 2GR do not fit into the SW20 chassis without some major modification, he does provide these headers along with the gaskets and bolts so that everything is ready to bolt up. Those are currently running $6.99 on his website, so they're not cheap, but they are a very nice piece of engineering here. They work well from everything I've seen with the motor to put it in, and everything should be good to go with those headers. The next thing that he provides is going to be this MAF adapter. Basically, this is going to be part of your intake track. He designed this because of some early issues with some fuel trim problems that were causing a lean condition with the motor. You can buy this from him along with a filter directly for it, AEM dry flow, so no cleaning on the filter, or you can buy just this pipe and put your own filter on there. That setup is currently running $173 without the filter, and then it's an additional $49 if you want that filter added on. The next thing that he provides is one of the biggest pieces that originally I heard was part of the hardest part with doing this swap, and that is this motor mount. This is the only motor mount that you have to replace on the 2GR to swap it into the MR2. The other three motor mounts are on the transmission itself, and so none of those have to be replaced. They use all the factory ones. But this motor mount is designed to bolt directly onto the 2GR motor and fit perfectly into the motor mount slot that is on the chassis on the passenger side for the USDM cars. So this is very, very handy. He also includes the perfect size bolts to go with it. So everything is ready to bolt on and drop that motor in and be secured in there in the motor mounts. That motor mount is currently, and he actually just had a price drop, I think it was not too long ago on these. It's currently $349 because it is now a cast piece. It used to be a full billet piece, and I think it was almost double the price, up around $700. So this is great that this price has come down to help make this swap a lot more possible. The next thing that he provides is the pedal adapter. So the 2GR uses a drive-by wire pedal, meaning you can no longer use your factory pedal that is in the MR2. That pedal and the wiring that goes back to the cable open throttle have to come out, and you have to put an electronic drive-by wire throttle pedal in. This adapter that he makes is a nice aluminum piece, and it's supposed to be a direct bolt-in. I'm sure it is, I'm not going to question that. Direct bolt-in that fits where the factory pedal is at, and then your new drive-by wire pedal bolts directly onto this, and it's like nothing's changed in there for you. That piece is currently running $79 on sale, so if you are looking at doing this swap, he does have a few of these items on sale. That's one of them that'll save you a few bucks if you order it here now from him. The next piece here is kind of what Frankenstein has been working on for years and years since the beginning, and that's this deimmobilized, tuned ECU. So one of the biggest problems originally with this swap was that the ECU was an immobilized ECU. You had to have the key, you had to have the receiver antenna, along with the correct ECU that all matched in order for the engine to start, or the ECU would cut power. Mark over at Frankenstein has gone through and cracked these ECUs. He's been able to unlock them and get rid of the immobilizer. He's added a tune, he's raised the rev limit, along with a couple other little tweaks to make this a great motor to put into the MR2 chassis, opened up some of the potential, and again, made this kind of a plug-and-play swap so you're not messing with trying to figure out all of this immobilizer stuff. This currently for the ECU, if you're using the 2-plug one, which is what this black one is, it's currently $370. And there is a core charge on there of $170. So if you just want to buy it flat out from him, you're going to go ahead and have to pay that core charge. Or if you find yourself another ECU to send in as a core, then you can go ahead and get that core charge waived or removed back once you send that ECU in. You do need to make sure that any ECU that you send him is not cracked on any of this connectors, as well as there's these little pins that lock the wiring harness to the ECU. None of those can be missing or broken, or he won't be able to accept it as a core ECU, or he may prorate it from you. That's something you have to talk with him on. But just make sure that what you send him is a good quality one, so he doesn't have a bunch of junk ones there and have to charge you that core charge. The other two items that I don't have here are from Frankenstein Motor Works are going to be the drive-by-wire pedal adapter cable. So it's a 12-foot long cable that plugs into your pedal when you mount it underneath the dash and runs the wiring all the way back to the ECU. That, along with a plug that actually fits the smaller port on your ECU, on this 2-plug ECU, have to go out to Paul over at Woodsport to have the wiring harness modified to work with the SW20 chassis. So those two items are again for sale through Frankenstein Motor Works. The drive-by-wire pedal pigtail is $48, and the small ECU plug, which includes all of the wiring plug-ins that go in, the pins that go in, everything like that, so it makes it real easy for Paul, is currently on sale for $59. So again, it's one of those things, if you're looking to do this swap, go ahead and get things ordered here while he's got them on sale. Otherwise, you may end up paying a little bit more on the costs than what's on this video. While we're talking about sending that stuff out to Paul, want to go ahead and go over his service. So what he does is he makes the wiring harness 100% plug and play. And I apologize, I'm trying to catch myself on my uhs and ums. I know I'm kind of falling back into that, so I'm going to consciously try and get rid of that here. What Paul does is makes the wiring harness completely plug and play into the SW20 chassis. So he takes the wiring harness, he modifies the plugs on the end to match up with the body harness in the SW20. He changes any of the wiring that needs to be done for fuel pump. I'm not sure all of the specifics, so I'm not going to talk about what exactly he does. Basically though, when you send the harness to him, expect it to come back, you plug everything in, and the car will start and run just like it's supposed to. He also offers sending your gauge cluster in to have a resistor changed in the gauge cluster itself so that your tachometer is going to work properly with the V6 for the 2GR motor. Basically, the factory cluster is expecting a certain signal from a 4-cylinder at a certain frequency and pulse. The V6 puts out a different one, and so the tachometer doesn't know what to do, and his service allows you to go in and modifies that so that the cluster reads correctly on the tachometer. If I'm not mistaken, his service currently is 350 pounds, British or pound sterling, however you want to state that, which comes out to roughly, I think it's around $450, $480, plus you have your shipping to him and a return shipping. Expect the total cost, depending on the conversion rate, to be somewhere between $600 and $700 US, all just depending on what that conversion rate is. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these parts off the table. I'm going to set up the next manufacturer we're going to talk about. I'll be back here in just a moment. Okay, guys, so the next set of parts that we're going to cover are from Alex Wilhelm at Wilhelm Race Works. He provides a few of the things that are needed for this swap to be, again, plug and play. It's something that you don't have to use his parts, but it makes the whole process of putting the motor into the car much, much simpler. The engineering has been thought out, the work behind the scenes has been done, so these parts just make the process a lot easier to put that motor into the SW20 chassis. So we're going to go over a couple things from him. The first thing here is going to be this intake elbow kit. Basically, the intake elbow is going to be the part of the intake track that your filter is going to connect to one end. This is going to go up and connect to the throttle body on the other end. The nice thing about his, the reason to go with his instead of just a standard 45-degree bend here, is that he has the nipple welded on for the PCV system, so the hose plugs right in from the factory PCV valve setup on the 2GR motor. And he also includes a pre-made bracket to help support the whole intake system. Again, it's one of those things that it's just for ease of simplicity, being able to bolt everything in, not have to worry about anything. That piece currently is $45 from Wilhelm, so not an expensive piece to make things easier on you. The next thing we're going to go ahead and look at is this beauty here. This is his Y-pipe that bolts from the headers, goes back to the exhaust system and makes a complete exhaust. The Y-pipe that Wilhelm Race Works makes is a designed to bolt on to a to a Burke exhaust. If you don't have a Burke exhaust, you're likely going to have to make a modification section of pipe that goes from his flange here to whatever exhaust system you have. Very, very nice construction. I did go ahead and have him weld in a cat on mine. We do have emissions here in Idaho where I'm at, as well as this being a long-distance road trip car. I'd rather not smell a catless exhaust all the time when I'm out cruising with the tops out. So this does have the bungs in it for the O2 sensors. It has very nice flex pipes. Just overall very nice piece of work here that simplifies this process. You can look at this thing and see there's a lot of complex bends and curves and everything in there. Trying to build it yourself or having a shop, exhaust shop make it. Just order his. It's going to be a lot simpler for you. It is not cheap. This is one of the more expensive pieces on the swap. Currently without the cat, it is a $700 piece. With the cat, it adds another $100. So you are at $800 with a built-in cat on it. But again, bolt-in simplicity, that was my whole goal for this swap. Make it as simple as possible, so I didn't mind spending the money on it. And when I see it, it's a great piece here. The next thing we're going to look at is going to be the fuel system. So the 2GR is a returnless fuel motor, so you don't have a line from the motor going back to the fuel tank like you do with the 3S or the 5S or any other motors that are usually put into the MR2. Wilhelm Race Works has solved that with a pressure regulator, the lines, everything, so your fuel system is basically 100% bolt-on. You can take this regulator and it actually bolts directly on top of your fuel filter, so you don't have to find a mounting place. It makes the whole process just going in and bolting everything in. He includes the lines to go from the regulator up to the motor, the return from the regulator back to the fuel tank, all the adapters so that everything, again, 100% bolt in. The only thing that you may have to do, and he has two options, is one option allows you to use a PTFE fitting on the return line on the tank. You do have to take and cut off a little nub on that line if you choose that option. It's something that with a motor in the car is pretty complicated. It's a real tight fit in there. With a motor out, pretty simple. Since I'm doing the swap, I should have no problem with that. That's the option that I went. The other option you have, if you don't want to do that, is that he has an option that simply uses a braided line that slips over that nipple and clamps down with a hose clamp rather than using a PTFE fitting. That current fuel system set from Wilhelm, let me pull that up here real quick. You have an option to buy just the lines or with the regulator. Just the lines are going to be $95, And then with the regulator, it adds another $130 on. So you're looking at $225 total for the fuel system. Not too bad considering you literally plug it in and the fuel system's done. You've got no plumbing, you've got no nothing that you have to worry about. The last thing that we're going to talk about here is going to be that Wilhelm provides is the water neck modification service. So your factory water neck on the 2GR does not have a port for putting for filling. It doesn't have a filler neck is what I'm trying to say, I'm sorry. The filler neck itself would be normally up on the radiator in the standard cars. Since ours is a different design and the radiator's clear at the front, the MR2 have a separate filler neck off to the side. Wilhelm provides this service that you pull off your water neck, you send it in to him, he puts on this filler neck port right here on the water neck for you, and you're done. You don't have to worry about plumbing anything else, you don't have to worry about running other lines over to anywhere. It's a complete plug and play. Bolt it on, you have your filler neck, you have the nipple that goes off to your overflow reservoir, and it's completely done. That service from him is a $100 service currently. You do have to box up your water neck, send it out to him. Expect a week to 2 weeks turnaround time based on his website according to how busy he is. And once you have it back, a couple new gaskets, bolt it on, and your water neck system, your problem is solved for you. So those are the items from Wilhelm Race Works. The next set of stuff that I'm going to go over is from a couple different companies. It's going to be from Rock Auto, it's going to be directly from one of the Toyota parts dealers, and a couple other different places. So I'm not going to get into those where you order them as much. I'll tell you where I got them, but it's not going to be as big of a deal. These are the guys that you want to make sure that you're supporting, are these three manufacturers for this swap. Wilhelm Race Works, Frankenstein Motor Works, and Paul Woods over at Woodsport. Again, they've been wonderful. All three of them have talked with me a bit on this swap, made sure I'm ordering the correct stuff, make sure I'm understanding what I need here, how to do this there, and everything's good to go. So make sure if you are considering the swap that you do support them, you reach out to them, they'll be more than happy to help. And then just do some research on this stuff as well. There is tons of information out there on the forums. Hopefully these videos will help you and make this something that if you're on the fence considering doing this swap, it'll help make your mind up. So I'm going to go ahead and put these parts away. I'm going to pull out some of the other parts here that I've got, and we'll be back in just a second and go over those. Okay, here we're going to go over some of the parts that are non-OEM parts, as well as not from those manufacturers that we previously covered. We'll go over these, and then the last thing I've got for you is some of the OEM part numbers, if you're going to need them. A few things like bolts and factory hoses, nuts, things like that that my motor was missing that I knew I needed for this swap. So we'll go over this, we'll cover that, and then this video should be done. I know it's a little bit longer one, so just bear with me, but try and get through all this so that you guys have all these part numbers and everything for you. First thing that you're going to need is going to be the lightweight flywheel, or you can use a factory V6 flywheel. This is going to be for the older Toyota V6s that came with a manual transmission. The 2GR never came with a manual transmission, so you cannot use, there is no flywheel for the 2GR specifically. Luckily, the bolt pattern and the size is the same as the previous V6s from like the Camrys. It was the 1MZ, the 3MZ, 3VZ, 5VZ, all of those motor series. So those are all things that you, vehicles that you can look for, a factory or aftermarket lightweight flywheel. The most common one that everybody uses is going to be this Fidanza flywheel. The part number on the Fidanza flywheel is 130881. For this one, I actually had it price matched through Summit for $325.68. Normally, it's up there closer to $400 to $420. So when you're doing it, shop around, see what the best price you can find is. My buddy who's also doing this swap actually just found one on sale because of the whole COVID-19 virus thing for $299. So depending on where you're shopping, you might be able to get it quite a bit cheaper. You are going to want to look at a heavier duty clutch. The 2GR puts out quite a bit more torque than the 3S on most occasions. And so you are going to need to look at a bit heavier duty clutch. There are tons of options out there for it. There's ACT, there's Clutch Masters, there's South Bend, there's quite a few different ones. It's 100% preference. I went ahead and chose the South Bend Stage 2 Endurance. That is what I have currently in my MR2 with my built Gen 3. I love the feel of it, super light engagement, Not much different than stock, easy to drive around, even stop and go traffic on the freeway, but holds power great. I've taken it out, done a couple drag runs with it, I've beat on it, it's running great. This is my choice. Again, it's up to you. For the South Bend Stage 2, the price on that one, I believe it was, oh gosh darn it, I believe it was around $360 through Summit. They had it on sale. I can't find it here in my list right now, but somewhere around $360. You can get it anywhere from about that price up to $450, $460, depending on where you shop. The next thing you're going to need is going to be a set of flywheel bolts. You can go ahead and order the factory ones. I don't have the factory part number because the price difference between factory and upgrading to the ARPs is next to nothing. These are the ARP bolts. The part number on these is 2032802. I ordered these from Summit as well. It was $28.99. Just get the upgraded bolts unless for some reason you have an affliction with factory OEM stuff. They're cheap enough. It's not worth it to go with the factory ones. I'm going to cover two of these used parts that I had to buy just because it is something that you are going to need to make sure you get the correct ones of. The first thing is going to be the throttle pedal. What you need is from a early generation or early style Toyota Avalon. It's the only one that will work with the Frankenstein Motorworks adapter. I believe 05 through 09 could be a little bit off on that. If you look on Frankenstein's site or contact him directly, he will be able to tell you exactly which ones work with his pedal adapter so that you don't have any issues with that. The next thing here is going to be your alternator. So there are a couple different alternators. There's actually quite a few different part numbers, but the alternators, there's two different main styles that came with the 2GR. There's a 2-wire and a 3-wire and a 4-wire, not a 2-wire. 3-wire and a 4-wire. The 4-wire, according to Frankenstein and some reports that he's had, as well as reading some on the forums, has issues with the charging. He has a great video that goes in and explains why the 4-wire has issues with the charging. He's much more technically inept than I am on that kind of stuff. Make sure you go watch his videos. He's got some videos as well on doing the 2GR, so it's another great resource for you. But basically what you're going to look for when you're buying is there is a factory sticker here that has the Toyota part number. If on there's a little chart that says IG, S, L, and M, it's a little plug looking thing. If that has RLO listed on it, that is a 4-wire and is not going to work properly. You're going to have issues with the charging system. So make sure the one that you get does not have that RLO on the sticker. This part number that I use is 27060-0p as in Paul 241. That one is one that I found that should work just fine. There is also the same part number but with 240 at the end. I believe just an older version of this one. Find one of those, or again, reach out to Mark. He should be able to tell you which ones are going to work. But again, as long as you get one that doesn't have RLO on the sticker, you should be good to go. You are going to need new O2 sensors. Unless your motor came with them, you can use them. Great. I just purchased new ones. The cheapest ones that I could find for this application were these Denso part number 2349008. You need two of them. The reason I went with these ones is that they were the cheapest Denzos that I could find. They were $54 a piece, I believe. Normal ones for the 2GR motor, depending on your year, can run anywhere from about $80 to $120 a piece. These are correct as far as the plug. They're the correct as far as the sensor goes. The only difference that's been able to be found based on the research that I've done on the forums is the length of the pigtail. So these may be a little short. However, one of the modifications that Paul Woods is doing on my harness is actually extending the cables for the O2 sensors on the harness itself. That way, I don't have to worry about extending these. I don't have to worry about paying $80 or $100 or $120 on the correct ones just for that additional length. Moving forward here, we're going to talk about the two main radiator coolant hoses. Now, this one here I know is 100% correct from reading on the forums. You have to trim off 2 inches on one side. I don't know which side it is until I get in there, but this should be 100% plug-in for the, I believe this one is the passenger side, or no, excuse me, driver's side coolant hose, if I'm not mistaken. Part number is Gates21701. Again, should bolt in with trimming off 2 inches. This is for the other side main coolant hose. Now, on my research, I saw this one, I did a little bit of digging. After doing some more research, this one may not work and I may have to find an alternate. So write this down as a questionable if you're taking notes. 22306, Gates part number as well, 22306. If this is incorrect, I'll update later on the video in the comments or in the description and post up a different part number. Your heater core coolant lines, these again are supposed to be directly plug and play. Gates 19168 and a Gates 19199. Should bolt directly onto the water neck, come up, run to your heater core lines, no modifications. You have 2 separate belts here. I ordered the original one because I wasn't going to do AC, and then I realized that, oh, AC is possible because I didn't think it was at first. Ordered the second correct belt for the AC. If you're not going to be running AC, the belt you're going to want is the Gates K060573. It's a shorter belt designed to run without the AC compressor. If you are going to be running AC, then you want the original size and style belt, and that one is a K070610. Only difference, this is a 6-rib 57-inch belt, I believe. This is a 7-rib 61-inch belt. So the 7-rib is the original correct one, but if you're not running the AC compressor, losing 1 rib shouldn't have any kind of an effect and shouldn't hurt anything for you. Last thing that I'm going to go ahead and cover real quick here, because my battery is dying, so I'm going to have to charge it. If you are wanting to retain your AC, there are 2 hoses here that make this basically plug and play. This is where a little bit of modification has to come in. The first hose is going to be a UAC as the brand. The part number is HA11258C. And the second one is going to be a UAC brand HA11332C. Okay? What has to happen with these are going to bolt onto the top of the compressor correctly. You are going to have to cut the other end off. Okay? So you're going to have to do this with the car, or a motor in the car, everything ready to go. The other end is going to have to be cut off, and you're going to need to get the correct adapter fittings to bolt on to the factory AC lines under the car. Any local hydraulic shop should be able to go in and crimp this on to the end of your hose here once you've got it cut. For these 2 adapter parts, the part numbers are, I got the 2 45-degree ones, and so they are going to be, for the straight fittings, RB-1302 and RB-1307. I'll post up the actual website that I found these on. Okay guys, sorry about that. I was hoping to be able to beat the battery dying on my GoPro. Unfortunately I didn't. So, as I was saying, the AC lines here, you will need to go ahead and order these fittings. These are what are going to screw onto your factory fittings that come up from under the car and crimp onto these new hoses once you get them trimmed. The site that I ordered these from, I did look it up while I was changing batteries, is going to be coldhose.com. And I gave you the part numbers for the straight fittings. The 45-degree fitting is supposed to fit just a little bit better because of the way that the hoses angle up coming from underneath the car. The part number for these are RB-1312 and RB-1317. So if you're wanting to keep AC in there with the 2GR, you'll need these hoses as well as these fittings for the end. And you're also going to need to get a 1GR compressor. The 2GR compressor is not going to work. There is a factory clutch system in there. I'm not exactly sure. Again, this is something I read the research on, that there is no way to use the OEM Toyota MR2 controls for the 2GR compressor, and it causes tons of issues. If you just get a 1GR compressor, everything should bolt in, everything should be plug and play, very simple, don't have to mess with fighting anything. So just go that route, get yourself the 1GR compressor, those AC lines, and those fittings. You should be able to bolt everything up, take it down to anywhere you want and get it charged, and have working AC on this 2GR swap. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the table. I've got a few OEM parts to go over with you, just stuff that everybody can use or you may need depending on what came with your block and your 2GR. Excuse me, I'm doing the thing again. Trying to consciously do that, and I keep catching myself, but one thing I'm working on. So a couple things that you may not have with the 2GR block, like exhaust nuts for the exhaust manifolds, alternator bolts, since most of these motors don't come with the alternator, things like that. So I'll clear this off, I'll put those over here, we'll go over those, and we'll be done with the video since I know it's long. Okay, so before we get into these OEM parts, I forgot about one part over here that we need to cover that is an aftermarket part, or you can order an OEM one. So the factory MR2 uses with the 3S or the 5S, uses two separate signals for the water temperature. You have one that goes up to the gauge cluster, and you have one that goes down to the ECU. The factory 3S and 5S water necks have two ports, one sensor for each of those. The 2GR water neck does not have two ports. It only has a single port. So what you have to do is either Frankenstein Motor Works still has, I believe, a few left, although I don't think he's making any more, some custom necks for these ports, or excuse me, for the water necks that have both ports on them. That's the old solution. There's a much easier, much simpler way to do that. And that is changing out the water temperature sensor from a 2-wire to a 3-wire when you're doing this swap. Since there's only the one plug, or excuse me, the one port to screw in that water temperature sensor plug into, you have that option of buying a 3-wire sensor and then having Wood Sport, when he's doing your wiring harness, convert the wiring harness to have both of those sensors in, or excuse me, both of those wires in there that spread out to their respective areas. One to the temperature sensor on the to the temperature sensor input on the ECU, and one up to the gauge cluster. It's a very cheap part. I believe the one that I bought was a Beck & Arnley, and it was $13, somewhere right around there. That part number is 158064, or excuse me, 0604. 15800604. It was $13.20 from Rock Auto. You can buy an OEM Toyota one. They are about $55, and it is part number 89422-16010. I went ahead and just bought the cheap one. If it doesn't work, I'll buy the Toyota one, but $35 savings on a little sensor. I figured, you know, I'll give it a shot. Okay, let's go ahead and cover the last bit of stuff here for you. These are all OEM Toyota parts except for these two gaskets. The reason I went with those is that Molly makes a good gasket. They were about half the price of the Toyota OEM ones, and so I went ahead and just ordered these. My motor, when I bought it, did not have the intake manifold on it, and it did not have the throttle body bolted to the intake manifold. So I needed to go ahead and get bolts and gaskets that would work for that. So the intake manifold upper, which is the plastic one, to lower, which is the aluminum one, uses a Molly part number MS19676. That's the gasket set for that. And the throttle body to intake manifold upper, the plastic one, uses a G32456 Molly part number. There are Toyota part numbers. I'll post those up with my list as well. But if you're wanting to save yourself a little money, Molly makes great gaskets. These are the ones to get, and you'll be good to go. Most people are going to want to take off their valve covers. Maybe not most people, but a lot of people are going to want to take off the valve covers, paint them, clean them up, make them look nice. You are going to need new valve cover gaskets. There are some interchangeable part numbers. I believe some replaced by part numbers or newer part numbers. These are just the ones that I found the cheapest. You might be able to find other part numbers cheaper. You might be able to find them more expensive. But your two valve cover gaskets are going to be Toyota part number 11213-31050 and 11214-31020. So those are the two part numbers there. Should be your correct valve cover gaskets. When you're doing that, you're also going to want to replace the spark plug gaskets that are in the valve cover as well. Those are part number 11193-70010. You'll need 6 of those, one for each spark plug hole. My motor was missing a couple of the OEM breather lines. The main one that I've got here is the one from under the, it'll technically be the rear valve cover. It's a large PCV port or a large breather port that runs over and connects to that nipple on the Wilhelm 45-degree elbow for the intake. Mine was missing that. Rather than just buying some cheap hose and trying to run it, I figured the OEM one is formed and ready to go. It is part number 12262-31100. I also was missing the PCV valve up to the intake manifold hose. That part number is 12261-0p as in Paul 080. The water neck, or excuse me, the throttle body has 2 hoses that run from the throttle body down to the water neck for the heated throttle body so it doesn't freeze over. My hoses were cut. The Toyota ones were, I think, $3 and something cents a piece, so I just bought them since they're, again, correct length, correct form, everything like that. Those two part numbers are 16264-0p as in Paul 031 and 16267-31040. Those are the 2 hoses for your throttle body down to your water neck. I went ahead and bought an OEM Toyota clutch throwout bearing. Always want to use these Toyota ones. I've heard numerous stories over my 15 years in MR2s of all the other brands having issues with the throwout bearing. Toyota one's $30-some, I think, if you find the right place and the right time. $30-something, part number 31230-20191. Get yourself one of those. Always good to replace it when it's out so you don't have to pull your transmission out in 6 months or a year when it starts to go bad because you didn't replace it. My car was missing a bunch of different nuts and bolts for needing to be able to put everything together. Things like the throttle body to intake manifold upper to intake manifold lower, and those nuts. So the bolts for the throttle body, bolts for the throttle body to intake manifold are going to be part number 90105-A0080. The intake manifold plastic upper to the aluminum lower is part number 90110-A0002. You'll need 4 of those and 4 of the ones for the throttle body to the intake manifold. There are also 2 nuts for the intake manifold upper to the aluminum lower. Those part numbers are 90178-A0023. You'll need 2 of those. You will need 2 alternator bolts if yours didn't come with those. There's one upper and one lower. Those part numbers are 90105-A0107 and 90105-A0129. Those are your 2 alternator bolts. If you are putting a compressor on, you're going to have 2 studs that need nuts, and you're going to have 2 bolts to hold the AC compressor on. The 2 bolts are going to be 90119-A0453, and the nuts are going to be 90178-A0024. Lastly, you are going to need 12 exhaust manifold nuts. Those are going to hold the exhaust manifolds to the block. Most of them don't come with them because most of them have pulled the exhaust manifolds off. Those are part number 90178-A as in Alpha 0048. You'll need 12 of those. So there you guys have it. I know this is going to be a long video. I was hoping to try and get it done shorter, but there's a lot of parts to go through. I'm trying to be just as quick and efficient as possible. But That should hopefully be all of the different part numbers you're going to need and what it is that you're buying. If you do have any questions, feel free to hit me up, post a comment down on the video, or I am on 2GR Performance on Facebook. I am on MR2OC.com or MR2OC on the Facebook, MR2 Owners Club on Facebook. I'm on pretty much most of those. Feel free to hit me up on any of those, or I do plan to go ahead and post up some threads on MR2OC.com, even though not a lot of people are using the forums anymore. I will go ahead and post up some of this information on there, create a thread on this swap. Other than that, I'll catch you guys on the next video. The next one I'm going to be doing is going to be the block modifications to mount the the E153 transmission to the block. Once again, big shout out to Paul Woods at Woodsport, Mark at Frankenstein Motorworks, Alex at Wilhelm Race Works, trying to get all these correct, and then everybody else that's on the Facebook pages that has responded to different questions I've had. I appreciate it all. Hope this has been helpful, and we'll talk with you guys soon.